How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to my poker channel. My name is Andreas Fröhlich, and in this video I'm gonna show you what went down in the EPT PLO cash games in Barcelona. Let's head into it. Here you can see a couple of chip stacks, a couple of pictures that I took. You can also follow me on Instagram, which is in the description below, but let's head into the action. We have a 5 euro blind structure. At first, that is the limit which I played the most, next to 5-10, but a lot of straddling to 10 euros went on, and in this particular hand, someone raised blind to 40 euros. That's why it became so big. Let's have a look at the action. We have a recreational player who makes it 40 blind, as mentioned, and two players call for 40. I look down at the King Jack 6-5 double suited and making it 195 to go. This is pretty much okay. I wouldn't go that much weaker in multi-way pots. Having two high suits is really important. If I just had King Jack 6-5 double suited with weaker suits, I would probably just fold it, even though it's a pretty decent looking hand. But high suits are pretty important. Sometimes you can limp behind if the game's really passive, and in this instance I might have made an exception, but in general you are looking to have some nutted hands. We got three callers. The pot size is about 800 and the first caller is short. Otherwise we have an SPR of 1.5, which is really important. The SPR is what's in the middle, and then times that SPR of 1.5, so 800 times 1.5, we have about 1300 euros effective with my opponent. The flop is 10-6-5 rainbow, and after the first two guys put in 20 euros as like a joke bet or something, the middle position shoves into me. I expect him to have a lot of one pair plus gutshot type of hands, occasionally some two pairs because I'm blocking 10-6 and 10-5, and very rarely, about 5 to 10%, I'm gonna expect him to have top set, middle set, or bottom set. And I hope that's not the case. So with the two backdoor flush draws, exactly, I decide to stack off here because I only need about 37.5% equity to call. The two backdoor flush draws here, the clubs and the diamonds, also help me in case that the first player who basically bet 20 euros wants to stack off, and they, backdoor equity helps in a three-way situation. So with the two backdoor flush draws, I'm okay to stack off. With one, it would have been much closer for sure. The result though is not so nice, as middle position shows the Jack 10-10-7 single suited, which I'm all but thrilled about because I'm down to 11% of equity, which means I'm about 25% of equity in short in like a 4K pot almost, no, 3.5 roughly. So that is not so nice, and I'm losing about 1.5k euro here. Just a couple of things here. I ran a calculation on how often my opponent has a set when he has a 25% range, excluding aces, as you can see here, and that's about 4.2% a case. Once he actually commits to it, I expect him to have about 10% after looking at this Pro Poker Tools Odds Oracle calculation. The second one is if I'm up against a straight draw and a gutter and a pair, I'm actually having a coin flip most of the time, unless he has a very strong one and I'm slightly behind, or he has two pair and I'm also behind. Getting to the next hand, which is a 5 euro, 10 euro hand, I raise under gun with Ace-Jack 6-5 flop suited, and under the gun one calls. MP 3 bets small to 75 euros. He, by the way, is only about 500 or 600 euros deep, and he makes a weird click here to 75 euros, and the big blind calls. Big blind is also very spewy. I've seen him get to the flop with Queen 10-6-8 rainbow. So all in all, very, very loose action. I decided to put in a 4-bet to roughly 300 euros here with the doubles of Ace-Jack 6-5. Also planning to obviously shove a lot of flops and hopefully them making some mistakes post-flop. And also having some 4-bet bluffs in my range. And them overestimating the times that I have aces. MP calls, big blind calls, we go 3-way to the flop, which is great. We have top 2 and a low flush draw, and obviously jam after the big blind checks. And now it gets really funny, and this is actually one of the best hands that I won in the EPT cash games this week. MP folds, big blind folds, and MP shows eights. He had bottom set. And he looked at me and he only had 300 euro behind, an SPR of roughly a third, so 0.35. And he folds bottom set, putting me on aces just because I have 4-bet. And this time I didn't have aces and take down the pot. About Yeah, and on the last day, I decided that I'd take a shot. I actually made the decision before I even went to the EPT. I decided to play really high at the last day, because then it wouldn't matter, as I wouldn't lose the ability to play, so for instance 5-10 with the amount of money that I had with me over there. So two short hands that I just want to quickly mention so that you get also why the results happen. I had Ace King Jack 10 on the button versus Ace King King 6 in that was a straddler in a 20-40-80 game. I only had a short stack. I bought in for 2,000 euros, and I went in for a little bit less than 20 big blinds, so to speak, with the Ace King Jack 10, and I lost the pot. Second one is there's no straddle yet, and I called 4-bet King King Queen for double suited, roughly win 600 euros. That was really early, and I think was the reason why people wanted to straddle, because I just 4-bet someone with a short stack, and he probably got a little bit annoyed and wanted to edge out me as a short stack, or it just create some action. There's multiple reasons for straddling or encouraging straddles, but if people have a short stack or regular see that you are a short stack, they're trying to increase the variance a little bit so that you have to rebuy or play eventually deep with them and no longer short stack, because playing short stack is a pretty nice advantage in those games because people are going to fold out a lot of equity post flop. But let's have a look at what exactly went down later on in the hands. So one of the hands that I played is I was under the gun with Ace King Jack 4 double suited. I raised to 300 euros and 3 players call. The flop is King 3 deuce rainbow, great flop. We have a top set blocker, so it's top pair, top kicker. That's fairly important. Having aces here is not that great, having 3 opponents, unless you have, of course, a gut shot, which gives you a lot of additional equity. So I'm much happier about having ace king here than aces, because I block top set. The SPR is about 1.5. I have 2,000 euros behind in a 1.2k pot. I bet full pot, and the first caller has ace king queen deuce. Against this hand, I have a coin flip, run it twice, and the opponent wins 75% of the pot. Unfortunately, we just take the quarter back and then afterwards lose that other hand that I mentioned in the last slide. What went down afterwards is that I basically rebought after that short stack hand, and I look down at ace, 7, 8, make it 300 to go and get 3 callers. The flop is also again favorable, 6, 4, 4, spade, spade, and 1 club. 2 players check, I shove for 1400, and 2 opponents shove as well, which at this point is not that great news anymore, because I block all the not flush draws with my ace of spades. They have less flush draws, so I'm pretty sure that someone has at least trips here, and hopefully they don't have a boat yet. The board runs out 3-3. And unfortunately, the button, who was the reason why I even sat down, why I took the shot at this particular table, I would have taken a shot anyway, but he had ace king 6-4 with 3 hearts that he just cold called with, and is now sitting with 12k euros. Shot ended minus 4k euros in this session. It was very short, about 37 minutes, I believe. I stopped it actually, and then I just went on to play some 5 euro games on that last day before I called it a week. The summary of the Barcelona cash games is that I played 57 hours, mostly at 5-5 and 5-10. I think it was a little bit a mix of about 25 hours each. Played a little bit of 10-20 and then 10-20-40 as the last hour of my session before I went down to just grind it out at 5-5 before I head back to Austria here. Total was that I lost 3k in the smaller games where I also didn't win that many hands, and then 4k euros at 10, 20, 40 euros. To make it my pretty much worst trip so far when it comes to the poker trips that I made. But pretty happy with the action. It was really great action and the best stop of the EPT by far. Definitely better than Prague, even though I like Prague very much. But you can always table select. There's basically a great amount of recreational players next to the regulars who also make a lot of mistakes, especially before the flop. Post flop, most of them, they seem to be pretty cautious, which is basically what they need to be once you go to the flop 4-5 way in those live games. And you also, what was interesting that in some hands that I actually wasn't even involved, I found some new spots to work on, especially when it was multi-way. There was an interesting hand where the flop came king, queen, deuce, rainbow, and it was 7-way. And someone actually led out into the whole field. And in this scenario, you know, basically end up having top set almost like I would say half the time if somebody bets. And the board ran out king, queen, deuce, queen, king. And somebody had queen, deuce, value betting the river, and they got check shoved on the river. And I asked myself whether that would be a spot to potentially fold, you know, a very great hand. And yeah, that is actually some interesting you know, stuff that you can do with, for example, Pro Poker Odds Oracle. So let me know if you enjoyed this short summary of my EPT trip in Barcelona. If you want to see more of that in the future, of those live hands, I maybe will next time try to implement it in a live player, but this time I decided to make it in PowerPoint format. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up down here and subscribe to the channel if you want to know more in the future about pot limit OMA and also other poker variants and some poker strategy. Thanks for watching.